Ahoy there, and welcome to Nautical Tales and Nature Trails as we journey across southern New England. My name is Will Morrissey. I'm your host. My wife, Bridget Morrissey, she's the producer of the show, and she's a realtor that races up and down the shoreline from Old Lyme to Charlestown. She zigzags from Mystic to Mashantucket up to Uncasville. She's all over the place on the back roads because she hates driving on I-95. But can you blame her? Not at all. But doing all those travels, she runs into so many different things that people just don't know about. So we decided to write a book, Nautical Tales and Nature Trails, to let you know about all the different things you can do in this area. We live in a beautiful part of the country, and there's so many things to do. So we got the book, we got this show, and we're going to let you know what's going on. And one of the big things that's going to be happening over the next 9 months, as we turn 2025 into 2026, is the semi-quincentennial celebration of the United States of America. That's right, 250 years since the signing of the Declaration of Independence. There's going to be a lot going on, especially this coming year when the United States is hosting FIFA. Now, I don't know if you all know what FIFA is, but it's the International Federation of Association Football, which means it's soccer. The soccer championships are going to be, world championships, are going to be held here in the United States. And it's going to be running from June, the middle of June through the middle of July. And we're going to have our big 250th celebration right in the middle of all that. And what does that mean? There's going to be a lot of people coming into the United States of America from all over the world because of the soccer match, going for a world championship in soccer. And they're going to be here while we're celebrating our 250th signing of the Declaration of Independence. And that means there's going to be a whole lot of things going on in the country, not only for soccer, but for celebrating our independence. So let's get into this a little bit. What is everybody doing about that? I'm old enough to remember the 200th celebration. Everybody was ringing bells, and there were fireworks, and there were parades. There were all kinds of celebrations of what was going on. You know, the independence, 200th years, it's wonderful. But now we're kind of looking into all kinds of things, and we're looking at diversity, we're looking at inclusion, we're looking at a lot of different things, and we're looking at our past to see how we can make the future better. So we've got a little video to show you about what the nation is looking at. We got another little video to go into about what can be going on locally, and then we've got a couple of videos going into our past shows to let you know that what we've been doing here at Southeastern Connecticut Television, with Michael and Frank producing this show, telling you all about things that you can do. We're going to bring up a couple of the ones that were here before the signing of the Declaration of Independence, and that's the Mohegan Tribe and the Mashantucket Pequots. So let's get into it right now. Michael, if you could roll the tape about what the nation is going to be doing.
There's a massive national birthday party just around the corner, and you might be surprised to hear that the main celebration could be happening right in your own backyard. So, what exactly is this nationwide party, and how does it connect to your hometown? Well, let's dive in. In 2026, the United States is going to mark the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. I mean, that is a huge milestone, a quarter of a millennium, and believe me, the planning is already well underway. Now, the official term for this anniversary is the semi-quincentennial. Yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful, I know, but it's the word you're going to be hearing a lot as committees and volunteers all across the country gear up for this massive national commemoration. So, here's our plan for this explainer. We're going to take a journey from the big 30,000-foot view all the way down to the grassroots level. We'll start with the national vision, see how it's actually taking shape in states and towns. We'll explore the key themes that are guiding the whole thing. And most importantly, we'll show you how to find your place in the story. Okay, so first things first, what exactly is America 250? Well, at the highest level, it's the official national initiative that's been tasked with organizing this entire countrywide commemoration. But the goal here is so much bigger than just fireworks and parades. It's really about sparking a national conversation. It's an opportunity for all of us to reflect on 250 years of American democracy, looking honestly at the triumphs, yeah, but also the missteps and the flaws, all to think about where we're headed. So how in the world do you organize a birthday party for an entire country? Well, the short answer is you don't. Instead, you create a framework that lets every single community celebrate in its own unique way. And the structure for that, it's actually surprisingly simple. The whole structure is kind of like a cascade, flowing from the top down to empower people from the bottom up. It all starts with the National America 250 Commission. They coordinate with commissions in every state. And then, those state groups help empower these super local committees in individual towns, often run by volunteers, maybe even your neighbors. And what's cool is that each state puts its own little spin on it. So in Connecticut, the effort is led by the state's Humanities Council. Over in Rhode Island, it's run by the Secretary of State's office. But if you look closely, both models share the exact same goal, a bottom-up approach that puts local communities right in the driver's seat. Okay, so if local communities are in the driver's seat, what's the roadmap, right? Well, this commemoration isn't a total free-for-all. It's actually guided by 4 really powerful themes chosen specifically for this moment to encourage a more complete and frankly a more honest look at our past. The first theme is a really big one, and it's called Tell Inclusive Stories. This is basically a direct call to broaden our historical lens and ask a really important question. Whose stories have we been missing? And this theme gets at a fundamental truth. For a lot of our history, many people, women, indigenous peoples, African Americans, immigrants, you name it, they were just left out of the national story. So this is a chance to consciously bring those voices right to the forefront. Take a place like this, the old Newgate prison in Connecticut. An inclusive story here isn't just about the patriots. It's also about the loyalists who were locked up here, and it's about America's long, very complicated history with incarceration itself. It's about seeing these historical sites through a much wider lens. Building right on that idea is the second theme, the power of place. This really recognizes that every single town, every city, every landscape holds a totally unique piece of the national puzzle. A perfect example is the Prudence Crandall House in Connecticut. This building tells an incredibly powerful, specific story about the fight for education and civil rights way before the Civil War. This theme encourages every town to go out and find its own Prudence Crandall House, that unique spot that tells a vital part of the American story. The third theme, doing history, is all about pulling back the curtain. It's about showing that history isn't just something you read in a book, but something you actually do. And it's inviting everyone to join in on the process. You know, history isn't just a set of facts carved in stone. It's an active process of interpretation. This theme encourages all of us to engage with the raw materials, like this sketch from an 18th century diary, to really understand that history is contested, it's ambiguous, and it's always evolving as we uncover new evidence and ask new questions. And our fourth and final theme, for the common good, really brings it all home. It connects our shared history directly to our civic lives today. This theme basically asks, how do the democratic ideals from our founding documents inform how we act as citizens right now? It's all about drawing a straight line from the revolution to modern movements for justice and equality, like the fight for educational equity in Connecticut. It reminds us that shaping our democracy is work that never, ever ends. Okay, so we have these 4 big themes. But what do they actually look like on the ground, in your community? Well, it all starts by digging into the layers of history that are literally right under our feet. Take a place like Newport, Rhode Island. The local committee there has this incredibly rich revolutionary past to draw on, from defiant colonists burning British ships in the harbor to being the very first colony to declare independence. I mean, this is the raw material for their celebration. And this is where history really comes to life. Just look at the variety here. West Hartford is hosting a block party with an indigenous music performance. Newport has a Tavern Talks lecture series with famous historians. Other towns are planting symbolic liberty trees. It's everything from academic talks to hands-on community celebrations, and each one is completely unique to its place. So, this all leads to the most important question. How can you be a part of it? Because this commemoration is absolutely designed for participation. And there are so many ways to get involved, big and small. You can volunteer for your local committee, you can sign up for a newsletter, or you can simply show up for an event. Some states, like Rhode Island, even have grants available if you've got an idea for a project. Really, the easiest way to start, just find your local committee's website and see what's already going on. So as we get closer to this 250th anniversary, the The real question isn't just about what story America will tell, but what story will your community choose to tell? It's a chance to define your town's place in the nation's ongoing story. So, what part of that story will you help write?
That's quite a bit of story there, isn't it? 250 years of America, plus the time before it. Now, we just had Chief Lynn Malerba from the Mohegan tribe in here talking about what was going on before the colonists came in, and we've had the Mashantucket Pequot Museum here with talking all about the history of the Mashantucket Pequots. We're going to get into a lot of different things as far as history goes, and we're going to go back and review what we've gone over with those two groups. But we got to realize that right here in Groton, a mile from here, you've got Fort Griswold, which got hammered. You've got the history with Benedict Arnold. I mean, he did so much for the city of Norwich, and then turncoat. We have our ups, we have our downs. We've got New London, the Amistad, came in, and that story, with civil rights going back into the early 18th century. It's all kinds of things that have happened in this area that pertain to the whole rest of the United States. I mean, being one of the 13 original colonies, Connecticut played an important part in this history. And we're looking forward to the semi-quincentennial. It's a mouthful. Let's call it America 250 and make it easy. But there's all kinds of things that everybody can do to help remember that. I remember the celebration of the 200th very well over at Hammonasset Beach. A couple people walking down the beach, ringing a bell at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and that night just fireworks everywhere. Now there will be fireworks, and Philadelphia is going to be the focal point because that's where the signing of the Declaration of Independence was. But every community has its opportunity to do something about it. And right here, Mystic is a big destination, tourist destination, which includes Groton and Stonington, because Mystic, although it has a post office, doesn't have a town hall. Mystic is part Groton, part Stonington. So we get to share all the different things that have been happening here. We just mentioned the Fort Griswold. My wife's aunt and her friend had a place on over in Stonington Borough that got hit by shells from the British ships on August 14th, 1814. Stonington has played a big part of the history of this place too, going back years and years. And right now, what are we doing? We're seeing so many people come into the area to build submarines. Electric Boat here is hiring people left and right. They just purchased this Crystal Mall last week for more office space. The area is booming because the United States is booming. And if we can all pitch in, we could all make it a better place. So let's see what we could do locally. We've got a little one about Mystic. Let's run that one, Michael.
All right, today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to try and figure out what makes an entire community tick, its values, its whole identity. And we're going to do it using just one kind of weird source. It's like we're looking for the town's blueprint, the thing that's hidden right there in plain sight. Okay, so just look at this list. MWR Library, Project Oceanology, a Boy Scout troop, a Little League. At first glance, it's just a total jumble of names, right? It feels completely random. What on earth do these things have in common? It's like someone just threw a bunch of local organizations at a wall to see what would stick. There's no rhyme or reason to it. Or is there? But what if it's not random? What if there's a real story being told here? A single cohesive story? That's the big mystery we're tackling today. How do we pull a clear narrative out of all this data? Okay, and here's the twist. This list, it's actually the episode guide for a local TV show. 31 episodes of a show called Nautical Tales and Nature Trails. And get this, we found it on a realtor's website. Yeah, a real estate agent. Super weird, right? But that's our artifact. That's the key we're going to use to unlock the story of Mystic, Connecticut. All right, so let's get to it. Time to find the pattern in the chaos. Our whole goal here is to sort through these 31 different topics and see if we can pull a clear blueprint of this community out of all the noise. The first thing that jumps out when you start to group these things together is just how much ground they cover. You've got land trusts, museums, parades, you've sports, art centers, you name it. It feels like they've touched on literally every single part of life in this town. But then, once you actually crunch the numbers and categorize all 31 episodes, boom, a super clear pattern just snaps into focus. This list isn't random at all, not even close. It's built on 3 main pillars. A whopping 42% is all about land and sea. Then you've got 32% focused on people and pride, and the final 26% is dedicated to history and creativity. This right here, this is the town's blueprint. So let's break it down pillar by pillar.
Okay, pillar 1. This is the biggest piece of the pie. Guardians of land and sea. It's the absolute foundation of this community's story, its relationship with the natural world. And we're not just talking about nice views or pretty beaches here. This is a deep, hands-on, active connection to their environment. For example, look at this focus on marine science and sailing. They've dedicated whole episodes to organizations whose entire mission is to get people, especially kids, out on the water to learn. That tells you this is a community that really, really cares about understanding the ocean that's right on its doorstep. And it's not just about the water either. They show that same level of commitment to the land. You see multiple episodes featuring these land conservancies, which points to this really powerful drive to protect open spaces, to make sure there are hiking trails, and to preserve that nature for generations to come. And that protection extends to wildlife too. When you see features on nature centers in the Audubon Society, the story they're telling is one of active stewardship. It's about looking after the whole ecosystem, protecting the animals that share their home. So here's the bottom line for this first pillar for Mystic. Its identity is completely tied up with its landscape. The land and the sea, they're not just some pretty background for a postcard. They are the absolute foundation of what it means to live there. All right, moving on to the second pillar, the keepers of culture. Think about it like this. If the environment is the foundation of the house, then culture and history, well, those are the walls. These are the institutions that give the town its specific shape and character. And wow, you can really see a vibrant art scene. It's not just one mention, multiple art centers and theaters are featured as these central hubs of activity. It's a clear signal that creativity isn't just a hobby here, it's woven right into the fabric of daily life. And that sense of history is deep. I mean, really deep. The show makes a point to cover the whole spectrum, all the way from the modern history at the Submarine Museum to the ancient, indigenous heritage of the Mishantucket Pequot people. They're telling the complete story. And you can't talk about culture without talking about libraries, right? Of course not. And they don't just feature one, they feature several. It really drives home the point that libraries here are way more than just buildings with books. They're seen as these vital community centers for learning and just connecting with your neighbors. So that brings us to our third and final pillar, the ties that bind. Okay, so we've got our foundation of nature, we've got the walls of culture, but what makes it a home? What holds it all together? Well, it's the people. This last pillar is all about that social fabric, the stuff that really connects everyone. You can see this big time in their huge community celebrations. Things like the Mystic Irish Parade or the Maritime Heritage Festival. These are way more than just a good time. They're these big anchor traditions that pull everyone together year after year, reinforcing that shared pride in who they are and where they live. And it's not just about the big festivals. You see it just as clearly at the grassroots level. The fact that they shine a spotlight on Little League and the Boy Scouts, that shows a serious investment in their kids. These are the volunteer-run groups that are really the bedrock of the town, teaching skills, building character. And finally, there's this really powerful sense of people helping each other out. By featuring charities like Sails Up for Cancer, the show makes it clear. This is a community that takes care of its own. That support network isn't an add-on. It's part of the town's DNA. Okay, so we've laid out the 3 pillars, we've decoded the blueprint, land and sea, culture, and community. But now we have to circle back to that big question from the beginning. Why on earth is this entire story being told on a realtor's website? Well, let's look at the blueprint one more time. You've got a solid foundation built on the land and sea. The walls are built with culture and history, and the whole thing is held together under a roof of community and pride. What does that sound like to you? It's a complete, sturdy, and really appealing home. What we're seeing here is a perfect example of something called community storytelling. This TV show isn't just a bunch of random interviews. No way. It's a very intentional, deliberate effort to bottle up the essence of this place, what makes it special, and then share that story with the world. It's defining the town's identity for everyone. And that's the aha moment. That's why a realtor is behind this. It is absolutely brilliant marketing. Think about it. Every single episode that celebrates a park or a museum is also showing off an amazing quality of life.
Every community leader they interview is proof of a vibrant, connected town. They are telling the story of Mystic because they're not just trying to sell you a house with 4 walls and a roof. They're selling you a home, a place within this incredible community they've just spent 31 episodes showing you.
So, all of this leaves us with a final thought to chew on. Every town, every city, every neighborhood has a story, a blueprint, just like this one, built on its own pillars. So the real question is, who's telling the story of your community? And maybe more importantly, what story are they telling?
Bridget and I are so proud to be a part of the Southeastern Connecticut television family here, presenting all these different things. There's so many different shows that we've done. We've got to meet so many great people that are doing wonderful things for the community. And you can take part in this kind of thing. What can you do to celebrate what's coming up next year? There's going to be a lot of people coming into town. We want them to know what Southeastern Connecticut and Southern Rhode Island are all about. It's a wonderful place to live. Obviously, you like it here, we like it here, and there's so many things for so many people. And there's more people moving in with EB with their contracts and building submarines. They're great for the community. It's great for the economy. And as you can see, all the different shows that we've done, the libraries, the Waterford Library, we had the Mystic and No Ink Library, we've had the one at the sub base and the museum there. We've had different theaters, the Granite Theater, United Theater. We had the Gene O'Neill Theater. I talked to Steven Seagal from the Guard Arts Center, and they're going to be celebrating their 100th anniversary this coming September. So they're going to be into the celebration mood too. So there's so many things that so many people can do, and we'll go from there. All right. So let's run the next. We got a video to run for the Mohegan tribe that was just here. Let's run that one.
So get ready for this. In 2026, the United States is going to hit a massive milestone. It's the 250th anniversary, and it's got a name that's a real mouthful, the semi-quincentennial. And when I say a 250th birthday for an entire country, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most of us, it's probably going to be something like, yeah, you're probably picturing the biggest 4th of July party you've ever seen, right? Giant firework displays, huge parades, the whole shebang. And, that makes total sense. But here's where it gets really interesting. If you actually look at the planning documents from some of the original colonies, a totally different picture starts to form. They're not just calling it a celebration. They're calling it a civic reckoning. This isn't just about throwing a bigger party. It's about asking some much deeper questions. So what in the world does that mean, a civic reckoning? To really get it, let's take a look at the playbook that Connecticut is using to guide all of its 169 towns and 5 recognized tribes. And you can see right away, these pillars are about so much more than just celebrating the founders. The focus is on telling inclusive stories, connecting those stories to real physical places, getting the public to actually do history themselves, and then using all of it to make our civic life stronger today. And this gets to the absolute heart of it, why that first step, inclusive stories, is so important. The planners are being really direct here. They're basically saying, look, when this nation was founded, the phrase, "we the people," left out a ton of people. So the goal now is to build a more complete, more honest historical memory, not just a highlights reel of the good stuff. Okay, but that can sound a little abstract, right? What does it actually look like to tell a story that's been ignored or maybe even buried for centuries? Well, to understand that, we can look at a place that's already been doing this exact kind of work for years. And this brings us to the Mashantucket Pequot Museum. It's located on the oldest continuously occupied reservation in North America, and it is a powerful, real-world example of what this new playbook for history can really do. This timeline really puts that 250-year anniversary into perspective, doesn't it? The Pequot story stretches back over 14,000 years. Their history on this land didn't start in 1776. It was profoundly and tragically shaped by events that happened way before that, like the Pequot War back in the 1630s. And here is a piece of history that is so often just skipped over. The state of Connecticut, as it exists today, exists because of the Pequot War. It got its charter from the King of England through what was literally called the right by conquest. This is a perfect example of how telling one of these inclusive stories can totally change our understanding of how this nation was even formed. This quote from Knock High Clearwater North up at the museum, It just hits you right in the chest. He says it all right there. The museum was built so they could finally have a platform to tell their own story from their own perspective, a perspective that was silenced for hundreds of years. It's a powerful act of reclaiming history. So this all brings us back to the real goal of America 250. The point isn't just to look backward, it's about building a legacy, something that's going to last long after the fireworks of 2026 have all faded away. And here, you just see this incredible connection. The national goal for America 250 is to help everyone find their place in the American story. And the Pequot Museum shows us exactly how it's done, by empowering communities to tell their own story, from their own perspective. It's a living example of how facing a painful past can create a much more honest and complete American narrative for our future. So this leaves us all with a final thought. This whole historical reckoning thing, it isn't just for museums or state commissions. It's really an opportunity for all of us to reflect. The real question is, how can each of us in our own communities help make sure that the story of the next 250 years is more complete and more inclusive than the story of the last 250?
That's what I'm talking about. It's not just 250 years, it's a lot longer than that. And we've got to make life better for everyone. And speaking of making life better, we've got some holidays coming up. I mean, if it's Halloween tomorrow night, and we've got the Mystic Lighted Boats Parade. We got a quick video about that. Why don't we run that one for you?
Join us on Saturday, November 29th, for the annual Holiday Lighted Boat Parade. The fun begins early with Santa's arrival by tugboat in the afternoon. Then the evening comes alive at 6 p.m. with the Christmas tree lighting at Mystic River Park. At 6:15 p.m., the main event begins. Watch as a dazzling parade of decorated and brightly lit vessels cruises down the Mystic River. It's a sight you won't want to miss. Bring a new unwrapped toy donation to help the local community. Come celebrate the season where the holidays make waves in Mystic.
Like I say, this is a wonderful place to live. All kinds of things to do, all kinds of places to go and visit, and you can make a difference in 2026. But you need to start planning now. So if you want to get involved, you check with your local towns and see who's running. I know Chelsea over in Stonington and Jan here in Groton are running different programs. So all you have to do is check on their websites and see who's doing what, and we'll all be celebrating together. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you the next time.